Emily had always been fascinated by dolls. As a child, she would spend hours playing with her collection of porcelain dolls, arranging their delicate dresses and brushing their hair. But as she grew older, her tastes became more refined. She began to seek out unique and one-of-a-kind dolls, scouring antique shops and flea markets for hidden gems. One day, Emily was walking through an old antique store when something caught her eye. It was a small wooden doll sitting in a dusty corner of the room. Its painted face was twisted into a wicked grin, and its stitched-on clothes were frayed and worn. Emily was immediately drawn to its eerie charm, and she knew she had to have it. As soon as Emily brought the doll home, strange things began to happen. At first, it was just small things. A door left ajar, a misplaced object. But as the days went on, the strange occurrences became more frequent and more intense. Emily would wake up in the middle of the night to find the doll sitting at the foot of her bed, its wooden eyes seeming to follow her every move. Other times, the doll would move on its own, its painted mouth twisting into a wicked grin. She tried to ignore it, but the feeling of unease that the doll gave her was impossible to shake. Emily tried to get rid of the doll, but it always seemed to find its way back to her. She began to feel like she was losing her mind, as if the doll was slowly taking over her thoughts and emotions. Emily soon discovered that the doll was made by a reclusive dollmaker who had a reputation for creating the most lifelike dolls in the world. He had crafted the wooden doll that Emily had found, imbuing it with dark magic that he had learned from a mysterious book. The doll was cursed, and anyone who came into possession of it would be doomed to suffer a horrible fate. Determined to break the curse, Emily set out to find the dollmaker's workshop. After weeks of searching, she finally found the hidden door to the dollmaker's workshop. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with hundreds of dolls of all shapes and sizes. In the center of the room stood the dollmaker herself, a frail old man with a gaunt face and sunken eyes. He looked up as Emily entered, his expression unreadable. "What do you want?" he asked in a hoarse voice. "I have your doll," Emily said, holding up the cursed wooden doll. The dollmaker's eyes widened in surprise. "How did you come by that?" "It doesn't matter," Emily said. "I want you to break the curse." The dollmaker let out a long sigh. "I'm afraid it's not that simple," he said. "Once a doll is cursed, there is no turning back." Emily pleaded with the dollmaker, telling him about the strange occurrences and the feeling that she was losing her mind. The dollmaker listened intently, his eyes flickering with an inner turmoil. Finally, he spoke. "There is one way to break the curse," he said, "but it's not an easy one." The dollmaker explained that the curse could only be broken if the doll was destroyed in a specific way, burned at midnight on the night of a full moon. Emily was hesitant, but she knew it was the only way to break the curse and free herself from the doll's grip. That night, Emily took the wooden doll out into the woods where she built a bonfire. As the clock struck midnight, she tossed the doll into the flames, watching as it slowly burned to ash. As the last embers flickered out, Emily felt a weight lift off of her. The curse was finally broken, but as she turned to leave, she saw the dollmaker standing in the shadows. The old man's face was twisted in a wicked grin, and he held out a new doll, one that looked eerily similar to the cursed wooden doll. "This is a special one," the dollmaker said. "It has a special kind of magic. It's yours if you want it." Emily shook her head, feeling a shiver run down her spine. She knew better than to take another doll from the dollmaker. She turned and walked away, feeling like she had narrowly escaped a terrible fate. As she continued her walk through the woods, Emily couldn't shake off the feeling that something was watching her. The branches rustled as if something was following her. She stopped in her tracks and listened closely. The wind howled through the trees, but there was no other sound. She took a deep breath and continued her journey back home. As soon as she reached home, she headed straight to her room. She closed the door behind her and flopped down on her bed, feeling exhausted from the events of the night. She stared up at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Suddenly, she heard a faint tapping sound coming from her window. Her heart began to race as she slowly got up from her bed and walked towards the window. She peered out and saw nothing but darkness. She shrugged it off, thinking it was just a tree branch tapping against the glass. She turned around to head back to her bed when she saw it. The dollmaker's wooden doll standing on her dresser. She let out a scream and backed away, tripping over a pile of clothes and falling to the floor. When she looked up, the doll was no longer on the dresser. She tried to calm herself down, telling herself it was just her imagination, but as she lay on the floor, she heard a faint whisper. The dollmaker's voice, calling out to her once again. She got up and ran out of her room, slamming the door shut behind her. She knew she couldn't stay in that room any longer. The doll had somehow found its way back to her, and she was sure that it was still cursed. She grabbed her phone and called her friend, begging to spend the night at her place. As she walked out of her house, she saw a figure standing in the shadows, watching her. It was the dollmaker. He had followed her all the way to her house. Emily ran as fast as she could, her heart racing with fear. She knew she had to get away from the dollmaker and the cursed doll. She could feel their presence following her, and she knew that she was in grave danger. Finally, she reached her friend's house and collapsed on the doorstep, gasping for air. Her friend opened the door and saw the fear in her eyes. She hurriedly let her in and asked her what had happened. Emily told her friend everything about the doll, the curse, and the dollmaker. Her friend listened intently, her eyes widening with fear. Together they sat up all night, waiting for the dollmaker to come for them. But he never did. And as the sun rose in the sky, Emily felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had escaped the curse, and she knew that she would never be the same again. From that day forward, she never went near dolls again. She knew that they held a terrible power, one that could consume her if she wasn't careful, and as she looked back at the burning ashes of the cursed wooden doll, she knew that she had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death.